What can I do for you?
Oh, a little song, a little dance. Batman's head on a lance. Tell me, what do you know about?
I don't know anything about Batman.
Really? Yeah. Well, how about a little you and me? Hmm?
All right, this is gonna be rough. This is gonna be fun because there's some shit fucking comics to talk about.
Yeah.
All right. Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes. It's time for all things Batman. We already talked about the big Batman trailer. I think we both were, generally speaking, positive. We had a couple concerns. The Gotham Knights trailer for the video game and obviously the Peacemaker. That was a pretty positive video. That was pretty fun. This ain't going to be positive here.
No,
this was one of the worst weeks of Batman comics.
Oh, man.
Like, it is rough. This is the worst issue of James Tynion's Batman that he's written, and it's also the worst issue of Batman Catwoman from Tom King so far, and those weren't exactly stellar comic books anyway. We have hit the bottom of the fucking barrel on this week, and here to talk with me about that is the man from popbyculture.com as well as a contributor to batmannews.com, Josh McDonald. How you doing, Josh?
I'm doing well, man. Like, I love that we came on. I like logged in and you're like, how's your week going? And I just went straight into bitching. Like, my week sucks. These books sucked this week. And I was just like, oh, the people are going to love that one. But yeah, no, I am not happy with this week's books. I think there were two that were okay at best, but God, I hate Fear State and I'm ready for it to end.
There are a couple of overarching themes through most of these books. One, the change in artists was a significant downgrade across the board. And then
it was every issue.
It was every issue. And the second thing is the story progression is almost non-existent across the board.
Yeah.
It's a real slog. And there are 7 Batman-related comics that came out this week. We ain't got time for 7. We're going to cover the 3 that are Fear State, Batman, Catwoman. So Batman 115, Nightwing 85, Catwoman 36, Batman, Catwoman number 8. At the end, perhaps if Josh has read Batman Secret Files, Peacekeeper number 1, Catwoman Lonely City number 1, and Batman versus Bigby number 2. He can give his general assessment on those. I just didn't have time to get through that many Batman books before we got to this video this week.
Spoiler alert, I have not. So I promise I will make sure I read those today. I'm actually off work today, so I'll read those today and I'll get some tweets out on my thoughts. But at the moment, no. My work schedule's been insanity. So.
All right, so if you want Josh's thoughts, you're going to have to go to the Twitter sphere because we ain't got time for it here. There's too many Batman books.
We're going to have plenty to talk about with these 4.
Absolutely. Obviously, it starts out with Batman 115, James Tynion, Jorge Jimenez, and Bengal on art.
Yep.
And this thing is bad. This is exceptionally boring. It's just characters kind of explaining what they're doing in the plot rather than doing anything. There's almost no story progression.
No.
And Batman is once again a backup character in his own damn book.
Yeah. Well, look, Batman being a backup character has been Tynion's shtick ever since Detective Comics. And it was okay with Detective Comics because he was meant to kind of be the background character. Like, they wanted to pull the other characters forward. But here, it's just like, since he started, Batman has not been able to be the star of his own show. And if it's a book called Batman, he should at least get to be his own star. But yeah, just nothing happens, man. And that's kind of been the thing with Fear State in general. It's just like, we had a solid setup and then we're still kind of just in that same narrative area as the setup. Yeah. I mean, like, nothing major itself has happened. And it's almost like Tynion's acting like just huge things are happening, but they're not. I mean, the plot progression has been so minor and so slow that I'm just like, let's get it going. And what makes it worse, and we'll talk about this in more detail, but it's impacting all these other books where nothing is happening. And unfortunately, some of these books, we stopped either great stories or decent stories to go into this. And it's just killed momentum, like for the Bat line across the board. And it already wasn't doing well to begin with. So
there was one saving grace on Batman the entire time James Tynion's been here. It's been Jorge Jimenez's art. And first of all, I would apologize for DC Comics, for James Tynion, and to Bengal personally. This isn't what I did. It's what they did to you. Putting your art next to about 7 pages of Jorge Jimenez art that are in this comic book make him look amateurish and boring. He's not a bad artist.
No, he's not.
But in comparison to what James or Jorge Jimenez is doing next to him, it's really embarrassing.
Oh, agreed.
The way that he's writing these characters and the way the story looks, and it makes Bengal look awful. And this kind of downgrade in art in the same issue, because when I opened the first few pages, I was like, "What the hell happened here?" And then I realized I was like, "It's a different artist."
Yep.
And it just boom. I already hated the story to begin with, and now I loathe it.
It definitely shows off how much of the heavy lifting Jorge Jimenez has been doing. And I agree with you. I don't think Bengal is a bad artist at all. But when you get him, comparatively speaking,
done great work with Remender in the Fast.
Yep. And you can see when they're side by side, you can see just where the difference is. And Jimenez as a sequential storyteller, I think, is stronger. He's got more flair. He's got more energy to his work. So it just, next to that, when you're reading the Bengal portions, it just kind of feels like it's low energy and kind of just a dud. And then you get to Jorge's and it's just like the book comes alive as much as it can with the script, and then it falls right back again. So, I don't mean this either as a negative to Bengal, but Jesus, they did not set him up for success.
No. Ben Abernathy, the DC Comics and James Tynion all owe him an apology for putting him on this book and setting him up for this amount of failure. He looks awful.
And it looks like I'm wondering if they changed the scripts a little bit, because it looks like he was brought in and it was a rush job too, even for him. Like, he's done better than this, Bengal has. But yeah, like it just is not good. And when you don't have stellar art, you can kind of see how much of a turd the turd is. Absolutely.
It definitely put a spotlight on it. There's another character. We're going to mention this when we talk about Catwoman as well, but Poison Ivy, who the hell is this? This character comes off as like a detached deity and doesn't feel like a fully fleshed out real character. What is her place in this?
I think they've been trying to figure out what they want to do with Poison Ivy since Heroes in Crisis, and I don't think they fully figured it out. And I think Tynion kind of found a way to try to bring things together, because she separated herself in that Poison and Harley spinoff series, which was awful. But
she feels like Dr. Manhattan.
Yeah, this Queen Ivy is just extremely regal and inconsistent too, because it's like she's not supposed to have care and emotion based on what was established in previous Batman issues. But then in this issue, she helps a little girl heal and not feel pain. But the whole reason she's not supposed to have like any empathy is because that portion of her is created in a completely separate body, which is in Catwoman. It's weird. I don't like it. And they've been setting up this whole like roots in the bedrock of the city for a while now. And they're just now kind of starting to lean into it. But yeah. And I hate this whole, like, it's going to be worse than the No Man's Land when that happened. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I have a soft spot for No Man's Land. It's one of my favorite like major arcs and events, but I don't know. I'm not looking forward to anything that's happening. So
no. There's also some weird stuff with Batman. He is a supporting character in this. He doesn't get a whole lot of opportunities to shine, but even when he's in here, he doesn't shine. This was the weirdest line I've heard from Batman in a while. He says, I have to accept that I can't control this city and believe in the people I have entrusted its care with.
Yeah.
Who the hell is this? Batman he accepts that he can't control? Why is he so crazy? Why is he out there as a vigilante every night? And what he's always checking in on his family to make sure that they're not messing up. He doesn't trust them. He doesn't trust anyone.
Yeah, I do think the whole lack of trust is more of a recent, like past decade type development that they've really leaned heavily into.
He's a control freak.
He's very much a control freak. I mean, that is very much a part of who he is. But I think, if you go back to the 90s and early to mid 2000s, there's a level of trust that he does have in them, but he will always check in, not necessarily because he doesn't trust them, but just to be like, I can do this better. So if I need to, I will step in. But yeah, I think I know what they were going for of like, it's a city. People are going to do things. I can't stop everyone, but I can play a part in making it better. But the line just wasn't written well enough in the context to come off that way. And his whole like plot here is just playing tag along with Miracle Molly.
Magic Molly.
We need Mighty Molly at this point. I said it last week, but Hurricane and Mighty Molly make this book so much fucking better. No, it's just like she's going to get the mind machine, or I might be butchering that.
It is the mind machine, yeah.
Yeah, so they're going to get that, and it's just it's again convoluted and weird. It's like, oh, we have the device.
It's already stolen.
Yeah, but the device isn't really the device. It's like behind the scenes, the monitor of all things. I've got light coming in, so I apologize, guys. The monitor of all things is what actually controls the device. Like anyone that knows computers knows that a monitor, like what you look at, is not what controls something. So that I thought that was stupid. And then she has this whole thing of like, here's the mind machine. And then like 2 pages later, she's like, oh, but it was already stolen.
It's gone. Yeah.
It makes
There's
no
one
sense.
worse part of this too, Josh. When she said he's going to create a trauma bomb, I was like, I almost almost had a seizure of just a cringe seizure. I was like, this is so stupid. Did he lift this out of Tom King's fucking script? Like, was trauma bomb supposed to be in the King run and he just borrowed it?
I am going to start saying that at work. Like if I'm pissed off about something, I'm gonna be like, I'm about to release a trauma bomb.
It's the trauma bomb.
My employees are gonna be like, what the hell? Yeah, no, I didn't like it. There's one other thing I didn't like is they set up that Mr. Wise, who's the lead of the Insanity, has a history as a scientist working with Mad Hatter. I'm so sick of everyone being connected.
Yes.
Like Gotham's a huge city with millions of people. Like you don't have to have everyone connected. Like, and it's been
everybody didn't go to uni together.
Yes, like we just set up that freaking Scarecrow and Ghostmaker of all people have a past working together, and now this, you know, and technically right now it's continuity that Poison Ivy, Pamela Isley, worked for Bruce Wayne as a science. Like it makes Gotham so much smaller. In personal and character ways, and I'm not a fan of that.
Yeah, Tynion might have introduced the trauma bomb, but I call it the suctitude bomb. I give this a 1.5 out of 5. Absolutely do not recommend. This is the worst issue of Fear State yet of all of them, and I think the worst issue of Batman that he's written.
Yeah, agreed. Hey, before we move on, can we discuss Saint and his screaming and why his tongue always has to be out? Like, have you noticed that? Every time he's yelling, his tongue is out. Like, not like if my mouth's open, the tongue's moving. It's like, it's weird. I have thoughts on that.
Was that a Bengal thing or is that a Jorge Jimenez thing?
Jorge has done it too. I don't get it. But this dude, like, he needs some help bad. He's
yeah. If we talked about all this shit in Batman 115, we'd be going for a while.
We could take one video talking about this book.
It's that was a rough comic book. Let's transition over to another Fear State time. We got Nightwing 85, Tom Taylor. We have Robbie Rodriguez in on art. Once again, we have a change. Bruno Redondo is normally the artist. We got Robbie Rodriguez. I don't personally think Robbie Rodriguez is a great artist, but I don't think he's bad. But you can clearly see he was rushed here. This isn't nearly as good, even by his standards, as you would expect.
Yeah, I think out of the 3 Fear State books overall, I feel like I enjoyed the art here better than the other books, probably. And I think some of it comes to the colorist, which I didn't write down their name, so I feel bad. But I think the colorist did a good job and did a lot of work of trying to make it look more consistent with what we've gotten with Bruno Redondo. But yeah, I don't think he's a terrible artist. Again, it did look rushed, but it's fine. It's another issue where not much happened, so.
No, nothing happens. It's just if you like Babs and Dick together, then I guess it's all right. But there's no plot progression. I also want to say this about Barbara Gordon's Batgirl uniform. She's just wearing a mechanic, like what do you call it? A mechanic's coveralls with a bat signal on and a cape.
I've never looked at it that closely, but yeah, you're right. It's very much what it is.
I'm going to call her Frumpy Gordon from now on. What the hell?
Yeah, I've seen some illustrations of this costume and it looks really good, and some illustrations where I'm not as fond of it. Honestly, my favorite Batgirl costume was the New 52, where they took the classic costume and modernized it and had the black and the yellow back when Gail Simone was writing. I thought that was a great costume, and I wish they would kind of go back to that. But we have what we have. I'll run with it. There's so much to complain about. That's one of the things I don't necessarily want to complain about. But listen,
if I get into a Barbara Gordon comic book, I'm expecting a little bit of A. You know what I'm saying?
Fair. I think for obvious reasons, I don't look for that, but I can understand why people do.
You get what I'm saying? Dick Grayson's
look, hey, I look for
you get what you came for the party for. I need my cheeks.
Especially in Nightwing. So there we go. I will say this issue, it seems like the only purpose was, one, to give us some Dick and Babs action, which, hey, I'm all for. and two, to kind of set up Barbara stepping back into the Batgirl mantle. But what I will say, and this goes back to the inconsistencies with Fear State, is in Batman, you had a Batgirl's backup where they talked about how there's 3 Batgirls. You've got Babs, Steph, and Cassandra. By the way, that backup I did not like. It was too like cutesy, and I can't do Cassandra and cutesy. But then you've got this issue of Nightwing, and you've got Barbara talking about how there's 2 Batgirls, Steph and Cassandra.
She admires them both very much.
Yeah, and that she had to step back. She's not Batgirl anymore. She's leaving that. And then you flip the page, and she's put the Batgirl costume on. I'm like, guys, like, where's the editor? Where, like, the writer? Taylor should have been paying attention. But yeah, editors and group editors, like, I don't want to say do better, but do better.
There's some other stupid things going on here. So you got Fear State going on, and the entire city's fallen.
Yep.
And then they actually show fucking Wonder Woman. Is she in Gotham? She's certainly aware of what's going on.
Oh man, yeah.
Why isn't she helping? Like, you're throwing holes right into your story. Where's Superman?
What's already been kind of like an aspect of why isn't anyone else interfering? Why isn't the government as a whole stepping in? You know, do the other heroes not care? I get they've all got their own things going on, but when you showcase
you don't have to remind me.
Well, yeah, and it's like when you showcase this and it's like, hey, Oracle's going to be down. Don't believe anything you hear from Oracle. It just brings up to like, okay, well, if you're going to show them, why aren't they getting involved, or why aren't they more concerned? Or yeah, it's problematic. It
is. There's a stupid opening scene where you see this UFO is hovering in Gotham, and it's broadcasting the signal.
Yeah.
Right. And we see that. How were Dick Grayson, Barbara Gordon, and Tim Drake so stupid that they never thought maybe the seer was in the UFO that's hovering around broadcasting signals in the city?
Oh man, I don't know. I'm so sick of this.
You know what I mean?
I was trying to think too. I was like, I wonder why they made such a sudden change to go from anti-Oracle to seer. And the only thing I can think of is like they've tried to do this evil Oracle thing twice now. With Batgirl and the Birds of Prey, when Rebirth first started, they tried to do Oracle, and it was some dude, and then they tried to spin it of like, no, he's actually a good guy, and it was that book was god awful, but that was especially awful. And then they did it with God, what was the Bendis Snyder evil, all the villains.
Oh, the
Year of the Villain. Yeah.
Yes.
And that was, I mean, it was Cecil Castellucci writing, so that should tell you enough. And now we've got it here. Yeah. So, yeah, I again, it seems like the obvious place to look, and they didn't look there.
We got this huge UFO orbiting, hovering above the city, broadcasting signals. I wonder where this person that's overriding my broadcast is.
Yeah.
Could they be in the enormous UFO that's hovering?
Yeah, at this point, I kind of wish it was some psycho person like in a basement somewhere, just adding another layer. But
it's like a fat dude with like a big gulp and one hand on the keyboard.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just like, all right, he's got his Arby's.
Hey man, that's the Breakfast of Champions. We do get a big spoiler here at the end, where we cliffhanger, not a spoiler, where we see apparently. Spoiler, and Orphan are in grave danger from the seer, and they get blown up. The top of the building explodes. Everyone's like, oh my goodness, they're dead. Unfortunately, DC Comics has already announced Batgirls is coming out next year. It's like, they're not dead. And
I'm pretty certain, well, I might be wrong. I was going to say I'm pretty certain the backup takes place after that, but it doesn't, because there shows them in the Watchtower and Babs in the Watchtower. But yeah, we already know that book's coming, so we know they're not dead.
Why spoil your own stuff?
Yeah. There's so many things I could say why to with DC at the moment, and I'm just to keep from like cussing and breaking things, I'm not going to.
Based on the fact that this does have probably the Liam Sharp art's probably better, but in context, it's more troubling, and we'll get into that.
Yeah,
I'll give this like a 2.5 out of 5. I'm on the verge of a recommend. Like. If you want a Fear State book that doesn't suck, this one doesn't suck.
It doesn't suck. It doesn't. I think the reason I kind of lean into the art on this one is I think it's more consistent out of all the 3 Fear State titles and even the Batcat title. But we'll touch on those in a second.
Yeah, we get into Catwoman 36. Ram B is winding his time down on Catwoman before we get Titty Howard coming over. We've got Nina Vakuva and Laura Braga on art. There are way too many art changes this week. We talked about that one. The coloring fits what they were doing. The colorists did a nice job making it as seamless as possible, but there's a tremendous amount of downgrade in the art once again.
Yeah. And again, Laura Braga is a fine artist. I believe she did the Harley and Ivy meet. It was the Archie crossover that they did. Her art is more sorted to those lighthearted kind of funner things. And if there's a Bat book that feels like it's kind of ingrained into the streets of the city and street level, it's definitely Rambee's Catwoman. So to me, the narrative and the art just didn't mix at all. And that was part of my problem here. And man, what a freaking waste of talent. Like I understand why Rambee's leaving now, because he was building such an incredible story and they're like, hey, we're going to do this and it's going to be amazing. And then it starts unfolding and he's probably getting these notes and he's like, this is shit. Like
it is shit.
Thanks for, killing what I had going. But yeah, he tries.
Did you know that Catwoman's about to pull off another con?
No, you don't say.
She might mention it 4 times in the damn comic book.
Yeah.
Time for another con.
Yeah. I think at this point, and I mean this in the nicest way, I think Rambee's kind of checking out, which again is a shame. I think he tries to do the best with what he's given, but he's not really given anything. And he can't do anything. He's at the behest of Tynion and Tynion's lack of pace. So
yeah. I was just super duper confused. I'm more confused with Poison Ivy by the week here in Fear State. I understand there's 2 of them, but perhaps that wasn't the best choice. And I guess the whole point of the plot is we're going to draw in the magistrate to Catwoman because she's the secondary target after Harley. Poison Ivy, and it's to get her out, and they're going to have her escape by boat like her sister did last issue.
Yeah.
That's the story.
It is the story. It seems like they're trying to build layers in to make this just feel like the tension is growing and growing and growing. But the fact that we're not actually dealing with any of the previous layers that have been set, like it doesn't feel like it's growing. It's just like, oh, okay, well that happened.
I don't remember, when did she have all the villains jump on her team in Alleytown?
It wasn't even that they were on her team. It's just I think there were villains in Alleytown when the magistrate started moving in, and for whatever reason, the magistrate was really pinpointing Alleytown. Maybe it was because of the crime rate. They never fully explained very well, but they went harder and stronger in Alleytown than they did the rest of Gotham, and the villains kind of started fighting back. So, which I believe I'm down with that. Why is
Penguin subservient to fucking Catwoman? He's a crime boss. She's just a diamond thief.
It's one of this is one of the nuances that I've always loved about how they write Catwoman, Riddler, and Penguin, and it's just that they're opportunists. And I think this is a moment where they saw an opportunity. I mean, we saw this in Joker War, or even prior to Joker War. They're opportunists. They're going to do what's best for them in that moment. And I think they see that there's an opportunity. Their best opportunity is doing this together. And I think that's all it is. So I can accept that. But the whole setup with Alleytown has been a little strange.
I did not love this, but I certainly did not hate it at all. I will recommend this one. If you're going to read one of the Batman comics that we review this week, this is the one to read. It's the least offensive. I'll give it like a 3.5. It's a very marginal, lighthearted recommend though.
It's mediocre. I mean, and I don't mean mid. That. And one thing I do want to bring up is they've got this White Witch character, right? I think it's White Witch.
Yes,
White Witch. They spell it weird. When did she start working with the magistrate? Because she wasn't working with them previously.
She fought her like 6 issues ago.
I remember
she was on
that.
A motorcycle.
Yeah, I remember her fighting her, and then you had Valley there as well. But I don't remember her. Yeah, I don't remember her being with the magistrate. I'll have to go back and look. But to me, that seemed really weird and out of nowhere. So that might be me missing something.
The big reveal on that one at the very end, I was like, whatever. I don't.
Oh yeah, that fight was awful. By the way, like there was no energy. It did not flow well. It was just dumpster fire of a fight.
Yeah. Speaking of low T Batman, let's get on to Batman Catwoman number 8. Tom King with Liam Sharp. I love Liam Sharp. He's one of my favorite artists in all comics. The work that he did on Green Lantern, whether I did not like the writing, along with Grant Morrison, but his work, his art was transcendent. It was fantastic. The work he did on Batman and Wonder Woman, Brave and the Bold was like otherworldly. If you haven't read that trade, go and get it. Like you're going to see the best Liam Sharp you can find.
Agreed.
He's such a good artist. He's such a weird replacement for Clayman. Yeah. And specifically in this issue, unless the Joker's face was old, I could not tell what time, like what story are they talking about. Yeah. I was so confused.
Yeah, Liam Sharp is an odd choice to replace Clayman, and I think what makes it worse is instead of trying to emulate Clayman, so there's some sort of consistency.
Well, he's coloring it himself rather than the guy that was doing the Clayman stuff, to where you know, he was doing things to differentiate the stories.
Yep. I think I always butcher his first name, but Tamio Mori was the original colorist, and he would try to color things in a certain way to help you identify the different timelines. And then you do have slight differences in costumes. And it was easier to tell. Really, I mean, it was still hard. Yeah, it was still hard to tell it sometimes, but even with Clayman, his art is crisp and clean enough that you could actually see it better. And here, Sharp, it's so dark and it's so, I would say, moody. But it also seems like he's just kind of stuck in this stylized thing that he's doing with Reptilian. And he's kind of bringing some of that into this book, and that style doesn't fit. And then I think he's spread too thin for what he's doing between Reptilian and this. So his art's inconsistent. And there's in this, and even with Reptilian, there's pages that I think that look incredible. And then there's pages that just look so drastically different that I keep thinking it's a different artist that like had to jump in and do a few pages. But yeah, it's just, I love him as an artist. I didn't like his work in this book because again, it's so drastic. It's from great to God, this looks bad. And it felt stagnant, which was odd. It's still miles better than the writing because Tom King hit fucking rock bottom. Like, man, this isn't Heroes in Crisis bad, but he's getting there, right? I was about to say there's some weird character stuff going on between Catwoman and Joker, and even Catwoman and Bruce, and even Andrea and Joker working together now. Like it's just, there's so many things that I don't understand the character motivation, and it just feels like, you know what, this is what they really need to do, because it works for all of Tom King's like recent maxi books, is they just need to make a box collection of his maxi books and call it Miserable People by Tom King, and there you go. Selena Kyle, he really took it to another level of just how awful of a human being she is in his eyes. There's a man standing on a bridge. He's clearly bleeding out of his neck. And Joker apparently has his daughter and 2 sons. And he's saying, I have to deliver this message or he's going to kill my children. This is what Selena Kyle says to this man whose children are in, mortal danger. Relax. Your kids are already dead. And I'm guessing from that neck wound, you are too. What's the point in being stressed? And this is after a point in the story where Helena is talking to an older Dick Grayson. And he says, you wanted to know, Bruce told me why he fell in love with your mother. He said, because there's roses out there and there's lilies, and your mother is the whole garden or something stupid like that. She's everything I ever wanted. How could you ever fall in love with a person like this that would talk to a father on a bridge whose one concern in the entire world is giving you this message in the very faint hope that his children might live? Relax. They're already dead. What kind of heartless piece of shit? Yeah. It's not Selena Kyle because it's not the character. It's Tom. Like, who thinks of this stuff? Yeah. I changed my mind on the name of the box set, and we'll just call it Character Assassination by Tom King. It's just, well, that's one of the things. And with Selena in particular, and this is my problem with a lot of the rogues and how people have written them in the past 5 to 10 years, is there are plenty of Batman rogues that were the quote unquote bad guys. They did bad things, but they weren't inherently evil. And Selena, to me, has never been inherently evil. She would steal stuff. They created a backstory of like, she had to steal stuff to survive, to get by. And that's kind of what she's learned. And that's been her lifestyle. And they kind of started pulling her out of that to see that there are ways of being good. But even when she was quote unquote bad, she always cared for other people. And it's one of the reasons in the past that she had a good relationship with Leslie Tompkins, because she wanted to help people. She wanted to try to make sure people didn't have a lifestyle like she had. And there was a sense of compassion in her that you don't see here at all. Like, she is completely void of compassion. This is not the Selena I've known and read for decades. I don't understand what he's doing or what he's going for. And it's another moment where I wish DC would have stepped in to say, like, no, like, come on, man. But
you're going too far.
Yeah, dear God, I'm so glad this wasn't in the main Batman line, because at least I can say, nope, this isn't continuity.
And the thing is, this is supposed to be about Batman and her relationship or whatever. Bruce Wayne became Batman because of the trauma he experienced as a child from his parents dying. Like, how could he ever fall in love with this woman after she talked to a father that's on his deathbed, hoping to save his children?
Yep. Agreed. It's like the Selina that I know in that scene specifically that you mentioned with the guy who
would have left to go save the kids while Batman tried to save him.
Yeah, it's either that or she would have. I mean, I could see her saying a line of like, "Trust me, I know Joker better than anyone. He's all talk. Don't worry." And she would have said that knowing like, "Hey, your kids probably are dead." Knowing, "Hey, you're probably going to die," but she's not verbalizing it to him. She's giving some peace. This whole approach to what he's doing with these characters, it doesn't work. He's trying to be super artistic with these different timelines and how he presents things. It doesn't work. You've clearly got Selina sleeping with the Joker as well.
There's this weird love triangle. Apparently the story is, I didn't realize this really clearly until this issue, is it's her deciding who she's going to be with, Batman or Joker. Where did this come from?
I don't know, but it's like, what decision is there? Like, Joker clearly is just going to care for himself and about himself. So
what would he see? Man. Why would he want to be with Selina Kyle? She's too smart. Like, he wouldn't be able to manipulate her like he can the other women that he's been with.
I completely agree. 100%. Nothing to me makes sense. None of the motivations make sense. Nothing of what they're doing makes sense. This book I just do not get.
I'm flabbergasted. And then apparently Phantasm, who was like the big reveal, like we're gonna get Phantasm from the animated, Mask of the Phantasm, is gonna be
hasn't done a thing.
Time. Bait and switch. What the fuck does this character have to do with any of the story?
Nothing. Well, at least not yet. We'll see what happens if we got 4 more issues left, and then the special. I can't see. There's a lot of ground that needs to be covered. But it's very clear that this probably could have just been a 6-issue story and could have called it a day.
Well, it's very clear this should have been dropped, at the editorial floor. Be like, nah, this isn't a story that needs to be told. This is a waste of time. This is incoherent gibberish. It's just fucking Jingle Bell songs and a bunch of mischaracterization that doesn't make sense and nothing's adding up.
I try to forget.
Give it a 1 because I think there's a story here, but that's being generous.
I'm going to be honest. I don't read the music in this because it's one of the things that pissed me off about his Batman run is he always had some poem or song just running throughout the book. And I'm just like, I don't care. It's so overused. But every issue of this book has Christmas music playing. And yeah, I'm not a fan. Not a fan. There was a line in here, and I think Joker said it about turn on some Christmas music because even in all the like cold and bitter, it gives you a sense of joy. I thought that was an excellent line coming from a villain. Other than that, I didn't find anything good or redeemable about this book.
No, it's the worst thing he's done since Heroes in Crisis.
Yeah.
And Strange Adventures was awful. Rorschach was awful.
Yeah.
This is bad stuff. So that's This Week in Batman. If you want to stomach a couple of Fear State books, go out there and read Catwoman. If you have to have a second one, go and try Nightwing. You might enjoy those, but steer clear of Batman. It is terrible. The worst Batman comic James Tynion has written so far. And Batman Catwoman, it might be the worst Batman book Tom King has written. And he has, he's got 85 issues. And not all of them are all that good. No, this was fucking bottom feeder garbage comic book writing.
Anyone that visited my reviews when I was reviewing Tom King's Batman, you already know that I was often giving it like a 2 out of 10, 3 out of 10, 4 out of 10. And a lot of that was just because of the art. And I would probably be giving these books 1 or 2 out of 10. It's not good at all. And I don't know, you said if you're going to pick up a Fear State book, honestly, save your money. Just come listen to us.
Probably going to be better.
We will fill you in. Just listen to us. Don't waste your money. Go try a new book. Go try an indie book. Just there's something better out there. Just don't feed this, please.
It's awful.